Now let's look at the third criterion with respect to the example of Kant's categorical imperative. Remember, the third characteristic, or the third criterion, is resourcefulness in moral problem solving. Now, what do we mean by resourcefulness? It helps us. It's a good theory. It's useful. It helps us solve problems, identify morally relevant aspects of conduct, judge rightness of actions, resolve conflicts among moral principles and judgment, test and correct our moral intuitions, understand the underlying point of morality itself. Well, certainly Kant's theory is very strong on certain of these. That is, it certainly helps us judge the rightness and wrongness of action. It certainly identified morally relevant aspects of conduct that we didn't think, or that people are worried that utilitarian doesn't take into consideration. That is, namely, the intent, what the person intends to do. That is, according to utilitarianism, his act could be right by accident. He didn't intend doing good. In fact, he intended doing a rotten thing, but it just turned out to have the best pleasure over it. So this theory really fits in pretty well from that perspective. It helps us understand the underlying point of morality itself. That is, according to Kant, the moral, what makes something moral is that it's rational. It's perfectly reasonable to do. Now, certain areas it doesn't work as well on. In fact, one particular area is that people claim that the first formulation, act only on those maxims which are universalizable. People think that that's just arbitrary, and it can significantly lead to difficulty implying the rule. Now, arbitrary is really Vaughan's term. I think the way to think of it is it's very difficult to figure out how to apply it. What does it mean that you have to be able to consistently will the maxim to be a universal law? I mean, we think about, when we're thinking about certain things like, don't kill an innocent human being, that certainly is universalizable. But let's think about some maxims that aren't. We wouldn't want them to be rules of humanity. Things like, we'll pick on a group of people, Christians. It doesn't matter. You don't want Christians, make it Jews, make it Muslims, make it any group of people. But the maxim, enslave all Christians. Or another example Vaughan uses, kill all Ethiopians, or kill all infidels, or kill all non-XYZs. It's really difficult to explain what the contradiction is in willing that to be a universal law. That is, people say, well, it's inconsistent with something or other, but according to Kant, it's supposed to be rationally inconsistent to do that. And this is one place where applying the principle, applying the categorical imperative, especially in that first form, there are probably problems like this in the second form, becomes really, really very difficult. So where are we in terms of applying criteria? Do we pick out a better theory, a worse theory? Notice, I want to just bring you back to a point that was made earlier on. In fact, I think when it was made on the page where I was talking about the first criterion of adequacy for moral theories. And I said something about there being a balance between kind of the theory and what it explains and our particular judgments. Now, if you look at the two cases, is it easy to line up? Is Kant's theory better or worse than utilitarianism? Are both theories unacceptable? Do they fail to explain anything? These are things that there's no hard and fast rule that we can follow, but nonetheless, I think applying the criteria helps us understand which we judge to be better.